First of all, I didn't say he jerked his dog off. He jerked his dog off. I'm just reiterating the video.
Okay.
Yeah, man, you got to see this, bro. I'm gonna send you.
I don't have to see it.
Oh, it's great.
This is Johnny with TigerBomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC 293, Adesanya versus Strickland, taking place in Sydney, South Wales, Australia. It's going to be an interesting overall card. Obviously, a lot of Australians are fighting. Some of them suck, some of them don't. We've got Sean Strickland trying to bring the belt back to the good old U.S. where freedom rings most of the time. And we'll see. I honestly think that I'll get to it when we get there about the fight, my thoughts on the fight itself. But overall, not too bad of a card, though. Like, I did my research on it. I did it a bit early. But I wanted to go over the previous fight card, which would have been the Gane versus Spivak card, just to give you my thoughts on it itself, kind of how I did. Not too bad, actually. I had a big bet on Gane, and by big, it was just the biggest bet of the night. It was like 3 units on Gane. When I saw that money line on him at the casino, it was like minus 165. I was expecting to bet him at minus 180. So when I saw minus 165, I kind of jumped on it immediately, thinking like I felt confident he was going to win the fight. But then that made me feel a little bit uneasy. Like, why is the line not where I thought it was going to be? Kind of overthought it, but I was fairly confident he was going to do exactly what he did, minus a couple of nut shots there and shots to the back of the head. But he handled Sergey Spivak pretty perfectly. Like, what was funny is that I get it. Like, I'm not going to shit on anyone's bet on Spivak. Like, I understand why you would do that. Gane hasn't really shown a whole ton of his grappling, but when you look at it, like, he lost to the best in the world and John Jones, me having to say that absolutely stinks. And then he lost to the guy who's going to make a shit ton of money in Francis Ngannou. And Ngannou was going to win that fight no matter what. So it's like, I can't blame Gane for losing to those two guys. The fact that he avoided the takedowns and he looked incredibly fast, I'm like, it was inevitable. So I was very happy about that. But let me get started with the beginning of the card. Jacqueline Cavalcanti defeats Zarah Farin. Exactly kind of what I expected. Like, I expected, how can I put it? I didn't expect Jacqueline to not necessarily fight the way she did. Like, she looked good, even though in a weird, boring fight and boring style, she did a lot of really good things there. Like, I was very impressed at her footwork and her boxing, and she just kind of showed a fraction of what she can do. So if you're judging her based off of that, you're not really seeing the biggest picture of her. Like, she was probably definitely worth the minus 400, the way she easily handled Farin, that is. And then what I expected was Zarah to not fight. She looked absolutely terrible, super slow. And I saw that if she couldn't beat Josiane Nunes, who was at a super height and reach disadvantage, she wasn't going to beat a girl at her size. So kind of the what I expected from Farin. Funny enough that they cheered for her, and she was the only French fighter to not win. So moving on, Farid Basharat. I owe Ronnie B an apology. I kind of convinced him not to take Basharat. I told him, yeah, just wait a little bit. Like, yeah, after like the first round, Clayton's gonna have a good moment there, and then they're gonna drop the line. They did drop the line. He was like minus 400, and then he dropped to like minus 300, and then he went instantly to like minus 700 after he got the takedown. I'm like, oh shit. So I feel bad about that. But yeah, he handled Clayton incredibly easily. I was like, wow. Like, I knew Basharat, Farid, that is, was good. I didn't expect him to handle Clayton that easily. Like, he took him down. He had a bit of a slow start. Like, he was eating some strikes from Clayton, but the moment he took him down, like, you just saw him completely break Rodriguez. And I was like very, very impressed by that. I don't expect him to do that every time, but the fact that he's able to do that kind of thing, you know, I knew his jiu-jitsu was good. I knew his top pressure was good, but for him to actually submit one of these guys using the PEDs that I call blonde hair dye with an arm triangle, and I kept thinking, what is it with these guys from like the Middle East or of Muslim descent just catching these guys from Brazil with blonde hair with arm triangles? It beats me. But yeah, I was very impressed. Moving on, Nora Cornoli defeats Jocelyn Edwards. I will say I had a very insignificant bet with Jocelyn Edwards. I had Jacqueline and Jocelyn as a parlay. Nothing to write home about. I was just kind of like, it'd be nice to have that cash. I almost bet Jocelyn Edwards at the actual casino. I was tempted. I was like, she's minus 120-ish, and I think there's a lot of value on her. if she fights intelligently. And I kept kind of running through the scenarios. And I eventually said to myself, like, hey, follow your rules. Don't bet low-level women's MMA. So I decided to bet it, but just parlay it and just be a little bit more safe. So if it cashed, it was fine. I'm going to sit here and tell you that Nora Cornoli, well, I'll say this, neither girl really won that fight. I think it was a terrible, terrible fight, like low-level stuff. Jocelyn Edwards is better than that. And I think Nora Cornoli is also better than that, but they both showed their weaknesses and their inability to actually fight intelligently. But I understand why Cornoli won that fight, so I'm not bitter. Like, I really gave it 29-28 for Edwards. I gave her round number 2, round number 3, mainly because round number 2, she had a good amount of top control. She did eat a couple strikes, like more than enough that I wanted to see. And then on round number 3, which was funny because no one gave her round number 3, she had a rear naked choke. It wasn't super tight, but it was like the most devastating maneuver of that fight. Round number 1, people were saying that it was Edwards, but I, being in that situation, funny enough, judging a fight similar to, one person pushing against the cage and the other person landing knees and elbows in the, cage position being pushed up, that's more significant to me. So I'm like, yeah, Cornoli's going to win this fight if Edwards doesn't fight smarter, and she never fought smarter. So I knew they were going to give it to Cornoli essentially no matter what. But when I heard the 30-27, I was like, did they give it to Edwards? Did the pressure? Because there's no way Cornoli could have won 30-27. Hometown decision, baby. Do I think she was not the rightful winner? Not entirely. Like, I think, yeah, she did the more quote unquote damage, but to win at 30-27 to me was kind of disgusting. It was clearly a hometown decision. Again, did the right person win? Why not? Sure, I'm not going to argue that, but the 30-27 to me was like, I felt dirty. I was like, ugh. Like, I was even messaging the dudes in my Discord. I'm like, yeah, she's going to win, like, no matter what. And then I'm like, 30-27, what the fuck? Ang Lusa defeats Reese McKee. I will say this. I did not bet Ang Lusa. I wanted to. I kind of stepped away from him. Actually, did I bet him live? I don't remember. I might have bet him live. But Reese McKee showed me that, man, I gained more respect for the guy because he definitely fought his heart out, but it just shows that he's just too slow and he's not as skilled as a lot of these guys. And Ang Lusa showed every bit of his skill set in that cage, like his toughness. Funny enough about judging, Ang Lusa essentially dominated round number 3. Reese McKee had like seconds, less than a minute of a good moment where he kind of hurt Ang Lusa, but Lusa never went down. He never stumbled. He just kind of walked away. He had his hands down. He was just kind of tired. People were saying, oh, is that a 10-8? No, it's not a 10-8. And I probably wouldn't even give it to Reese McKee. Like, he had a good moment in like a couple seconds. He did some damage, of course, but it's just not enough. Like, had he done that a little bit sooner, maybe taken Ang Lusa down, beaten him up a little bit more, would have swayed me to give him the round. But like, it is what it is. But yeah, Ang Lusa looked great. Taylor Lapilus defeats Calvin Lochran. Very uneventful. It shows to me that Lochran, or I can't even pronounce his name, Lochran, he's going to be something special when he learns how to move his head, because I knew immediately, like, this guy, like, even though I didn't break this fight down, I didn't even want to. I was like, this is just, I rather enjoy it, but like, his head movement is awful. He's very stiff. And then Taylor just did exactly what Taylor needed to do. Good takedown defense. I thought the moment Lochran took him down, I thought it was going to be it. I'm like, he got him down. He's going to get him out, take his back, pound him out, but never happened. Lapilus showed that he's definitely one of the more skilled French fighters out there. And, I'm still looking to see what Lochran can do once he actually has that bit of like, oh shit, maybe I'm not the best in the world. Because when you're running through dudes, you're going to keep doing the same thing because it's working for you. He's going to have to make some adjustments. And when he does that, it's going to be very impressive, I think. Morgan Charrier, I had a parlay with him and Manon Fiorot, the two Frenchiest Frenchmen there. And then he handled business. I thought it was going to be a second round TKO because I thought Manolo had enough gas. He had enough juice in him to survive and go kind of a little bit buck wild in the first round to make Charrier a little bit like hesitant to kind of throw everything into these shots. When he found that body shot, and this is what I really appreciated about that knockout, he hit him to the body once. He hit him again with the left, I think a switch kick, left body kick to the liver. Manolo's expecting it this time, so he's protecting it. So what he does, he throws the rear kick teep to the liver. So it goes, instead of going to like the opposite side, it goes to the liver, so it crosses over. hits him right in the liver, and that's what hurt him. And I'm like, whoa, that's some good shit. And then he finished him with that nasty, nasty, like bent over kick to the liver. I was like, that was beautiful. He's a rock star. I find it so crazy that his record honestly does not represent how good of a fighter he is from what I've seen. Like, I'm sure he's going to get a loss in the UFC. There's ways he can lose. I kind of expected it. He fights a little close sometimes, but the guy is absolutely fun to watch. And for Manolo, he's Italian, so we might see him again. I don't know. He didn't impress me at all. He can bang for sure. He's got power. It's just that I think he runs out of gas. And now that people know to hit him to the body, I don't know how well that's going to go for him. William Gomis. Funny enough, I did look at the line before like the fight started, and I saw that William Gomis point spread was the minus 3.5 was plus 130. And I was confused. I'm like, do I not understand the point spread? He has to win on the majority of the scorecards and or get a finish. So I bet the point spread. And they ended up getting the TKO against Yanis Gamori, who obviously he went up in weight to fight a very athletic Gomis. This is what I've always said about Gomis. He's incredibly talented. He's very, very athletic, but his overall skill set has not yet reached his athleticism. The moment that does happen, I think he's going to be a force. That kick, though, what I found interesting about it, I'm not going to I can't believe that happened. It hit him in a spot that to me didn't look like it really affected him. I think Gamori might have wanted a break. I can't fully say that, but the fact that when they stopped the fight, because the referee thought it was a legal blow, he kind of like looked perfectly fine. I'm like, I thought your balls were hurting, bro. Had he sold it a little bit more, I think they could have potentially like called it a no contest or gone to the scorecards. At that point, it wouldn't have mattered anyways because Gomis would have won that 30-27 because it would have, or 30-20, 30-27, I would say. So they tend to give a 10-10 after like a few minutes have passed in the third round if nothing eventful happened. But I think Gomis was still winning, so they would have given it a 10-9 overall. So 30-27 for Gomis. Gamori is a good fighter. He just needs to fight at bantamweight. Let's move on. Volkan Oezdemir defeats Bogdan Guskov. I am so glad I did not take Volkan Oezdemir by knockout in the first round. I actually went with the fight would not go past one round. So no matter what would have happened, if say, submission, TKO on either side, it would have covered. That submission kind of like, it cashed me my money, but I was a little pissed off. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You don't do this. You knock people out. But that was impressive. Like he's shown to definitely having a diversity and training now, especially training at All Stars for Volkan. Bogdan, he's gonna get a UFC win. I can almost guarantee it. They're gonna give him somebody. He's gonna knock him out or submit him. But he did not look good. He showed every bit of his like lack of top level experience with like high level dudes fighting. And I will say he did have a couple good moments where he cracked Volkan, but other than that, it was like you got choked out by Volkan Oezdemir. That doesn't happen. And I think I tweeted like, Oezdemir got his submission loss revenged against Anthony Smith because he's choked out, whatever, counterpart. Benoit Santani. I have to admit something. I got a comment from where you at, homie? A Xavier. Xavier said to me, Benoit is going to finish Thiago. And I asked, like, is it going to be a knockout? Because I don't see him submitting him. And he told me he's guaranteed to finish Thiago. So I told him if that did happen, I was going to kiss his ass on the video. And Xavier, you absolutely called it. Like, you pinpoint accuracy. You said specifically that he was going to use his pressure, which he did, used it beautifully. And he broke the man. He absolutely broke Thiago. I ended up betting a little bit of money. A little bit, because I needed to put a bit of pride bet on Thiago because I thought he could win the fight. I was kind of 50-50 on it. I didn't think Benoit was going to break him like that. I thought Moises, with the more experience with high-level guys, was going to be able to like do well. I still don't fully believe Benoit is what we see him to be. I think he's leaving a lot of openings there where one of these days he's going to get knocked out cold, because every time he does his like little blitz against the cage, he gets cracked. And in this case, Thiago hit him, but I don't think Thiago had the power to actually hurt Benoit. He did kind of not stumble him, but like he made him stop. He made him retreat for a second, and then he just pushed on with the grappling. And I think Moises, when I saw the face-offs, I'm like, damn, Moises is tiny. I think Benoit's going to use his size here. So I try to avoid it, like betting it legitimately. So I just bet a little bit of money on it since Moises was like plus 140. I was overall impressed with Benoit, but it's still like I still see the issues there. So I'm not fully sold on him quite yet. And that's kind of weird because I am a fan of Benoit Saint Denis. Like I want him to succeed. But like when I keep seeing those glaring openings of like, this could be a problem in the future. So don't kind of get drunk on his performances yet. Let's just kind of take it case by case. We'll see. Like maybe I could end up being completely wrong, like I was early on with Volkanovski. I was like, I don't know, man. I see openings there for him, and now I don't see any. Like he's absolutely one of the more perfect fighters. So we'll see what happens with Benoit. Manon Fiorot defeats Rose Namajunas. It was close, but very obvious to me that Manon Fiorot won. There was a couple things that she did in that fight that impressed me, but it wasn't technical fighting. It was more so crowd work. What I mean by that, she had the crowd on her side, and Manon Fiorot used it to her utmost ability. There was a moment where the fight was pretty close, and I wasn't sure who was winning that round because Rose was having success with the boxing, and Manon was, stuffing takedowns, throwing the occasional kick here and there, a couple good punches. She would hurt Rose enough to kind of stun her briefly, nothing major, just to kind of chill her the fuck out. And then, Rose would kind of pick up a little bit of the volume. Then near the end of the round, Manon would just kind of blitz her, throw a couple strikes. The crowd goes crazy. That's a big moment. Judges are going to respond to that, especially, and I mean especially if a fight is close. So Manon's a very intelligent fighter, I'll say that. Like she knows what the judges want to see. So whether if she's absolutely dominating a fighter, which I've seen that happen, where she's just outlanding, just doing the better work, or if it's a really close fight with a kind of dangerous opponent like in Rose, where I think she was a little bit more reserved. She didn't want to get taken down, but she proved she was a stronger, more athletic fighter, stuffed all of the takedowns. I believe. I think maybe Rose might have gotten one trip or whatnot, but yeah, Manon showed that like she knows what to do with the judges. I'll just say that. So I think she can point fight her way to a belt one of these days. And then of course I already talked about Cyril Gane. He looked fantastic. So overall I had a pretty good night. I made like nothing major. I only bet 4 units. I ended up getting 3 units back. So it was one of these cards I was going to stay away from, but I ended up seeing a little bit of value here and there. But yeah, Manon cashed my parlay. I won a unit there, and then I bet the 3 units on Gane to win 2. So overall, good night. But I am looking forward to this 293 card, starting with the first fight of the night at welterweight, Kevin Jousset versus Kiefer Crosbie. And this fight intrigued me because there's a lot going on here. So we've got Kevin Jousset, I'm going to say. He's French. He's minus 135, come back on Big Daddy Crosbie here. I love that by the name. By the way, he's the Irishman. He's plus 110. What I find fascinating about this bout is that given the background of both guys, right? Like we've got Kiefer, who's a black belt or actually he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He trains out of Straight Blast Gym, boxing experience. He's got a couple boxing bouts. He's fought in Bellator. He used to fight at lightweight, but now he is legitimately a big daddy. Dude is jacked. And he's fighting at welterweight, which I believe, if I recall, he's undefeated at welterweight. And Jousset, he's a former middleweight. He's kind of transitioning between welterweight and middleweight. So I wasn't too sure, and I don't really even have Jousset's stats here. I don't know how tall he is. I don't know how long of a reach it is that he has, but I don't really think it matters. Jousset is interesting because he's a judo black belt, BJJ black belt, but he does not look like either one of them the way he fights, at least from what I've seen. I know he's got some really good like judo flips. I don't know what the hell they're called. Good, decent control when he can get it. But to me, he does not seem like a good MMA fighter. What did I write? I put here that he lost to JDM, which would be Jack Della Maddalena. And he also fights like a Frenchman. Like I was kind of insulted watching his tape. He fought a guy named, I think it was Rideout. It was recently Caleb Rideout, and he lost that fight via split decision. He lost that fight dominantly. He did not win many rounds, if any. He allowed this man to punch his legs You heard that correctly. He would duck, punch him in the leg, and he did that to him multiple times. I've just not been impressed by this guy's overall tape. Like I can see that he's got potential to be skilled. He doesn't really have a great amount of volume. He does have a lot of feints. I wrote down here in my notes that he fights almost like the white French Izzy. Like you see Israel Adesanya's style with the city kickboxing like feints and the movement, but he doesn't throw enough. So to me, I feel like he can consistently fall into that behavior of not throwing enough and just kind of waiting for the right moments. He's very hittable. Both of these men are very, very hittable. So I was like, let me look at Kiefer Crosbie. Let's see what's up with him. I watch his tape from Bellator, and I see this guy getting pieced up by Charlie Leary. And Charlie Leary, I don't want to call him a bum, right? He's not a bum because he's definitely a skilled guy. He almost beat Yancy Medeiros, where I got terrified because I bet Yancy when he was fighting in Hawaii, and I was like, God damn, Charlie Leary's beating his ass. But Charlie's got good hands. He's a good fighter. But the fact that he was getting pieced up by Charlie Leary is not a good sign. Like, you should be able to handle him. He is a guy that he's a good step up for like prelim guys from Bellator to like the next level to like maybe getting on like the later prelims, not the YouTube prelims. I guess they're all on YouTube anyways, but it just concerned me that he's getting pieced up and he gets TKO stopped. And it was more so like the doctor stoppage, but still he gets completely manhandled by Georgie God damn it. Karakarian. I know Georgie, like I've seen him fight. I just can't remember how to pronounce his name. But other than that, like he's just not been uber impressive. I even saw his fight with Alex Oliveira, Cowboy, where he TKO'd him. He didn't look great. Cowboy was having a good time, but just Cowboy got hit once and he just never recovered, and he stuck in there and then eventually got TKO'd by Crosbie. Like, it just seems to me both these guys are kind of on the lower level. Like, it's the perfect fight because I think they're going to put on a great performance. I don't think this fight's going to go the distance. But yeah, with Crosbie, with his jiu-jitsu ability, I think he's got good control. His boxing's good. My main issue with both of these guys is I think both of these guys can get knocked out. I don't think Kevin's been finished before. I don't believe he has, other than like I think a doctor stoppage from Jack Della. Let's find out. Yeah, TKO doctor stoppage via cut. This one's kind of tough. I'm leaning towards the dog in Crosbie mainly because he is literally a dog. I think he fights like that. His boxing skills are pretty solid. Defense-wise, not great. I think he'll actually fight and throw. While, for example, Jousset will try to like feint a little bit. When he does throw, it's okay. I don't really see a lot of power in him. I'm leaning just towards the dog, even though he's plus 110. It's not really in my realm. I'd rather take it a little bit more. We'll see what happens when later in the fight, or not the fight, but later in the week. See if the line drops for Crosbie. But I am leaning Crosbie. I think he's just going to throw more. So realistically, either guy can get finished. I think Crosby's been finished more so than Jousset, clearly. I'm going to go with Big Daddy here by a decision, mainly just by outpointing him. And by that, I mean he's going to actually throw punches, while Jousset is just probably going to try to judo flip him eventually and just kind of feint at him from like a mile away. So I am looking forward to this fight. Even though I'm kind of shitting on both of these guys, I think it's going to be a fun fight. Moving on, we've got Shane Jung at featherweight here versus Gabriel Miranda. Oof. I completely forgot that Shane Jung's on a 3-fight losing streak. He needs this fight. He is minus 165. Comeback on Miranda is plus 140. I don't really have much to say on this fight, right? Shane Jung should win it on paper. I think he's got the hometown advantage. Even though last time he fought at home, he still lost a decision to Blake Builder, which he rightfully deserved to lose. He's not the bigger guy here. He's 5'8" compared to the 5'11" of Miranda. But he's the bigger guy. He's jacked now. Like, he looks in fantastic shape. So what was my stupid joke here? I wrote that, yeah, he's in phenomenal shape. Phenomenal shape. The coolest thing about him is his haka at the face-offs. There's nothing really special about Shane Jung. He's just a pretty average kickboxer from City Kickboxing. He's kind of the lower level rung guy. He can fight, definitely. His takedown defense is okay. It just seems like it seems as if it's a letdown spot again. I think Gabriel Miranda, if you really look at his record, hasn't fought anybody. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? To me, just because you fought bums doesn't mean that you are yourself a bum. It's when you're losing to bums that makes you a bum. The guy, I've kind of been keeping an eye on him. It says that he's training out of MMA Masters, but I'm not positive if that's correct because I couldn't find anything that confirmed it. I know at one point he was listed at MMA Masters, but I can't see him still currently there. But seeing images of him on Instagram, which is, I keep bringing it up, man. Instagram is sometimes the best place. He looks incredibly motivated. He wants to win this fight. I think he is skilled on the ground. I think he can handle dudes once he kind of slows the pace down. But my biggest issue with the man is that when he gets the fight to the ground, he doesn't necessarily slow it down. He tries to go too quickly and he can get reversed. And I think if Shane Young can do that, he can get back up. I don't like this fight. I think it's a tough one to call because on paper, I think Shane Young is just more experienced. He's fought the better competition. He knows what to expect. As for Miranda, I think he can win via finish. And I think he can get takedowns. It's just we need to see him be a little bit more mature. And yeah, he's 33 years old. He is the bigger guy. I just don't know if he's got that measured performance in him, right? Because he was able to take down Benoit Saint-Denis. It's just that he kind of, again, rushed things and Benoit got back up and then beat his ass. So when you see that Benoit Saint-Denis fight, you're like, wow, he's a bum. You know, Benoit just beat his ass. Like, what do you expect? Like, he just beat another Brazilian in France. What do you expect, really? Like, I want to pick Miranda. I really do. So I'm gonna screw it. I'm gonna go with Miranda. I think he can win this fight. I think he can win it via decision. I think he can win it via submission. I do think Shane Young is one of the lesser guys. It's a really close 50-50 matchup. Because of that, I have to go with the dog. I'm not saying it's dog or pass. If you have Shane Young, you know, I wish you the best. I hope he fights intelligently. I hope he stuffs the takedowns. If you've got Miranda, hope that he goes for takedowns. Hope that he doesn't kind of go a little crazy in there, gas himself out. Again, biggest issue with him, he gets a takedown, he gets control for a little bit, goes for a submission, gets reversed, or the guy gets back up. And that's the biggest thing he needs to work on. But I think he's got a good opponent here to kind of style on if he can, if he's smart enough. So I'm gonna go with Miranda by decision on here. Again, I think he can get a submission for sure. How many guillotines does he have? He's got a good amount of submissions. Moving on, we've got Blood Diamond Mike Mathetha versus Charlie Radtke. And the odds have it in favor of Radtke, a.k.a. Chuck Buffalo. He is minus 250. Comeback on Blood Diamond is plus 195. I just checked, funny enough, on Tapology. It says Blood Diamond's nickname is Blood Diamond. Blood Diamond, Blood Diamond Diamond. It's Mike Mathetha. But he's 3-2 in MMA, period. He's got extensive kickboxing fights. And as for Chuck Buffalo here, Charlie Radtke, he is 7-3. The guy is impressive to an extent. Like, he's another guy who made the leap from lightweight to welterweight, similar to Crosbie. He's undefeated at welterweight, I believe. Maybe I'm thinking of Crosbie. Let me make sure. I don't want to speak out of my ass here, because I do remember thinking he was undefeated at lightweight. No, I'm sorry, at welterweight. Yeah, his last loss was at lightweight, and it was Justin Montalvo, and he was having his way with Montalvo to an extent. But you can kind of tell that the weight cut was really getting to him because he slowed down significantly. He didn't seem to have a whole ton of power after like the first round ended. But yeah, Charlie Radtke is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, if I recall. That's why I have notes here, dumbass. Where are you at, Charlie? Interesting. Yeah, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Former Cage Warriors or CCFC. What the hell is CCFC again? Oh, I'm an idiot. CFFC. So Cage Fury Fighting Championship champion. It says here he's also training at MMA Masters or Evolution MMA. I'm not sure either way. He lost to a couple good names. He lost to Austin Hubbard. He lost to Chris Gonzalez at lightweight. He's got good takedown defense. Striking is a little rudimentary, but what's funny about this guy, he has a ton of power in his left hook. And I even went back and rewatched a couple of his knockouts where he got a left hook. It doesn't seem like he's winding it up. It doesn't seem like the cleanest, doesn't seem like the hardest, but whatever is in that hand is ridiculous. So he's got power for sure. I've seen him get rocked. Realistically, though, my question has always been this whole week when doing tape on this, why is Blood Diamond taking this fight? Why is he taking another grappler, especially a grappler who's competent on the feet? And that only leads me to believe that, number one, either one of two things. Either the UFC absolutely want him out. That's why they're giving him Charlie Radtke here. Or Blood Diamond actually has some pull with Izzy because he's another city kickboxing guy. And he sees something here that he can exploit because he's had 3 grapplers in a row. First fight, Jeremiah Wells. What the hell were they thinking? He got submitted in the first round, but I'll get to the reason why I haven't said immediately. And then Orion Kalse, who's a terrible fighter, but he out-grappled him. And then actually Blood Diamond did a lot of bad things in that fight. I'm making a case for Blood Diamond, okay? And my case is, when taping the man, my main thing that I wrote down here is that he is not absolute shit. He did a lot of good things in that fight, right? When he's throwing kicks, they're impactful, right? He ends every combination with a low kick. He's got good combinations in general. He's very tricky on the feet. He's very funky on the feet, which I really appreciate. Takedown defense is getting better, right? He attacks the hands. He's just overall solid. He's able to get back up. The Jeremiah Wells fight, I remember it like he got taken down and submitted immediately. Jeremiah Wells is a high-level black belt. Blood Diamond defended that choke for a long time. It's not like he got taken down and got choked out immediately. Radtke's a good fighter. He is probably the not the best fighter Blood Diamond's fought and not the worst fighter he's fought. He's just right in the middle. And I think if Blood Diamond can kind of reach that point where he can actually stuff takedowns, which he's getting better at, where he can avoid getting submitted or his back taken, him getting back up, and actually let the hands go, I think he can catch Charlie Radtke either early or anytime, really. It's just, is Blood Diamond going to do the same idiotic things he's done before? He kind of allows himself to get clinched up. For example, in that fight with Orion Kalse, he hurt Kalse. He went after him, and then he kind of let himself get grabbed. I think he needs to learn to disengage and let his strikes go. Feel more comfortable in that striking range instead of initiating the takedowns, or not the takedowns, I'm sorry, but the clinch, to kind of feel like, hey, I got the clinch, so you're not going to be able to take me down. It was just weird. I do think he can win this fight, especially at those odds, plus 200 essentially. I think he can knock out Charlie Radtke. He's been knocked out before. Striking's not the greatest. Jiu-jitsu, though, I think it's solid, but I think Blood Diamond's got enough to withstand it. So I'm going to go with Blood Diamond, round number 2 knockout. I like Herb Dean, the gold standard. Believe in Blood Diamond. I think he can get it done. I'm actually going to place a small bet on him, whether it be a quarter unit bet. I don't believe in him that much, but I believe in him. But I'll go with Blood Diamond to win this one by knockout. Again, I keep thinking, why is he taking this fight? He's got Izzy as his boy. Maybe he blows him. I don't know. I'm not making that rumor or anything. I'm just stating they're friends. Why is he taking this fight? They could have given him another low-level striker, right? They could have given him anybody. They could have brought back Ghost Pepper, Eric, whatever, Gonzalez, told him, hey, move up to welterweight and get your ass beat by Blood Diamond. We'll give you another shot. They could have done anything for Blood Diamond to get him a win, yet they give him Charlie Radtke. I don't know. I feel like this might be a kind of the old switcheroo here, where we are expecting Blood Diamond to come out here looking like we expect him to look out like, but then he puts 10 grand on himself to win, knowing that his takedown defense is ridiculously good now, and he's able to disengage and throw elbows and knock dudes out within the clinch. So I'm just stating that. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems a little too obvious that Chuck Buffalo here is going to just take him down and submit him. So I'll go with Blood Diamond by 2nd round knockout, which sucks. I do like Charlie, but we'll see what happens. Let's just go. Moving on, Nasrat Haqparast versus a jobber from The Ultimate Fighter, Landon Lone Wolf Quinones. I taped this one. I like Quinones. I liked what I saw outside of Tough. Inside of Tough, not great, right? He got handled real easy. by Jason Knight. And that's going to happen, right? When you're fighting a veteran like Jason Knight, it's going to kick your ass. Nasrat Haqparast, he's minus 410. At this point, no longer bettable. Come back on Quinones plus 320. I like Nasrat. I think he's going to win 100%. I think he's going to handle Landon. I think he can get takedowns of his own if he has to. I think he's athletic enough. He's got the better striking, the better hands. Landon's got good cardio. He pushes a good pace. He's got good striking himself, but I just don't think he's got the boxing or the overall experience that Nasrat has. It's not like, Landon is 27, which he is, and Nasrat's like 33 or 34. Nasrat's 28. He's just fought hard level competition. He beat John Makdessi. He needed to get his feet wet and get a win again, and he got that win. It was by unanimous decision. It was very unanimously boring, but Bobby Green beat his ass. Dan Hooker beat his ass. Like, that was not the best time for Nasrat. His mother had recently died during the Hooker fight, and you can just tell like his confidence was shot during the Bobby Green fight. Bobby handled him, and it showed that he wasn't ready for the top level, right? And Bobby is not at the top, but he's like teetering there. As for Landon, though, I think it's going to be a good showing from him. I think he's going to have a good overall time. But as for like takedowns, Nasrat's shown that he's got the takedown defense and the get-up game when he fought that Oklahoma wrestler, Alex Munoz. And that's really when Alex didn't have a whole ton of like striking experience. So it was mostly him trying to get takedowns. He couldn't do it. I got Nasrat to win this one by decision, but I am looking forward to seeing what Landon's got, right? Like Landon definitely had some training with Conor in The Ultimate Fighter. What was that I wrote? I wrote that in his loss to Jason Knight, he learned more in that ass whooping than what he did training with Conor McGregor. Because that was I love Conor, man, but he was a shitty ass coach. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Nasrat here. I just think that he's got really everything: good lateral movement, good hands. The only issue is that price tag minus 410. I think he can make it close. And I think maybe Landon can land a shot on Nasrat that kind of wobbles him or puts him on his butt. Nothing significant to the point it's like, oh my God, he's knocked out, but enough to give you a scare if you have that ticket. So I'm going to avoid this fight, but I do have Nasrat to win this one by decision, kind of hoping that Landon doesn't just get like completely blown out of the water. Let's move on. We've got Jamie Mullarkey versus John Makdessi. Minus 190 for Mullarkey. I think that's Mullarkey in its own right. I think it's like minus 240 now. And John the Bull Makdessi plus 155 allegedly. We've got a 29-year-old versus a 38-year-old man in John Makdessi. Makdessi 5'8". Mullarkey is 6 foot tall. 74-inch reach for Mullarkey and 68 for Makdessi. Now, what I'll say about Makdessi is that he's got the ability to put on really good performances when he can exploit certain people, even if it's a guy bigger than him with longer reach, like, for example, with Bahamundes. But one thing that I noticed about Bahamundes overall is that his boxing is just not quite there. Like, he's very defensively not sound. Mullarkey, on the other hand, he's very sound with the boxing, very good defense. I say that, of course, after he got knocked out by a guy he should not have gotten knocked out by in Muhammad Naimov. He was handling that dude. He was handling him easily, taking him down, outstriking him. The issue is that Jamie kind of got a little – he felt no threat on the way back from Naimov, and then he got countered with a really beautiful right hand, I believe, dropped him, and – I don't want to say it was a early stoppage because you can still see Jamie was still there. Jamie didn't respond well. I don't necessarily think it was like he was rocked. He definitely got dropped, of course, but Jamie gets dropped a lot and comes back. It's just that he didn't respond correctly. He didn't show that he was all there. He kind of just like, what the fuck just happened? And then, Herb stopped it. I believe it was Herb. But then he gets right back up. That's not going to happen here in Australia. They're not going to stop it early. He's going to tell them, don't do that or I will kill you. Like, these people, I have family here. They'll feed you to the sharks. So that's not going to happen to Mullarkey. But what I do think is going to happen is that Mullarkey's going to have his way with Makdessi. I think he's got the ability to retire him. I like Mullarkey. I've been a big fan of Mullarkey. He puts on a nasty pressure, attacks the body, good boxing, good left hook, uses his reach well when he's smart. He can wrestle. And I think after that last fight, I don't think he's going to take a whole ton of chances kind of rushing in. I think he's going to pick John Makdessi apart and then go for takedowns, right? I think John at this point, yeah, he's kind of a little stubby dude, but he's always been a guy that you can control on the ground. I go back to Dennis Hallman taking him down and beating his ass. Even Nasrat took him down a couple times, like really easily at a certain point. And the main reason is because he wasn't expecting them from a striker. Jamie's kind of shown that hand a little bit more, but when you're getting your head popped off with a jab, a beautiful jab from Mullarkey, I think John's not going to really see that coming. So I think Mullarkey wins this one, second round TKO. I think he's going to really he's gonna take it out on John. Like, I'll show you, like, you're the same shade of color as the other guy. I'm gonna get my revenge on you. So I'll go with John Makdessi to get brutally ended by Jamie Mullarkey. It says here that he's the bull. Well, you castrate bulls, so I think Jamie's gonna castrate the bull here. Moving on. Enough about animal balls. We've got Jack Jenkins. Oh no, Jack Farr. Farr is a horse that he mentions. I think you can also castrate horses. Versus Chepe Machine Gun Mariscal. I really like this fight. I really enjoy both these guys' style. I really have become a fan of Chepe Mariscal. Jose Chepe Mariscal. I tweeted him once, never responded. That's okay, though. I know you're busy. But for Jack Jenkins, I have to say, I got a little screwed in his last fight, right? I had Jamal Emmers to win. I thought he did enough to win round number 1. I said, screw it. It was close. Jamal Emmers is plus money. I'm going to bet Jamal Emmers again at plus dog money live. Then he wins the second round. Then I thought he did enough to obviously dominate the third round. And they call it a split for Jenkins. I'm like, okay. But it kind of showed that he can get taken down. The dude is talented, no doubt, but minus 220 in this fight, I do think that it should be a lot closer. And I understand why the odds are that way. Chepe Mariscal, he's plus 175. He's dropping back down to featherweight. He made his short notice debut against Trevor Peek, where he beat the crap out of him, just made him his bitch. Literally slapped him at one point. I was like, yeah, buddy, let's go. But I do think it should be a little closer. I don't think it should be minus 220 for Jack Jenkins here. I think it should be closer to like maybe minus 180, minus 170. Like, basically, I understand the reason why it is this way, because Chep has gotten dropped a ton, right? He's been finished with strikes, but realistically, he is the more skilled fighter. He's got a judo background. I believe he's a black belt in judo, purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He is, quite frankly, the more skilled fighter. It's just that the way that Chepe loses fights is the way that Jack Jenkins can actually win this fight, which would be knockout and by finish. But if Chepe can get takedowns, if he can take the back, I think he's not outgunned on the feet. The only issue is that those leg kicks from Jack Jenkins are going to really suck. But Chepe, I think he's a smart fighter. He's a very, very intelligent fighter. Going back and watching some of his tape, like, he's beaten a lot of really good guys now. Like Pat Sabatini, Yusuf Zalal, and unofficially, he did beat Bryce Mitchell. I scored that fight for Chepe. The guy is absolutely skilled. He's not to be underestimated here. Like, I considered taking Jack Jenkins, right? But then I remembered, like, just keep watching tape. Don't just go based off of assumption. Don't take the dude's last performance for Jack at face value. He didn't look great. He wasn't incredibly aggressive. He did throw good leg kicks, but, like, the game plan. You can plan for it. Chepe, on the other hand, I thought he looked absolutely fantastic his last fight, but don't take that at face value. He fought a bum. But going back to his previous performances, like, as long as he doesn't go ballistic and try to knock a dude out, like he tried to go into a gunfight with Brito, right? You don't do that. And he got knocked out, and he deserved that. And I think he's learned from that overall. He can get knockouts. I think he's incredibly skilled. I'm willing to take another shot on Chepe here, which is going to be crazy, right? Because I see him having a good performance. It's just that you have to be prepared for him to get completely put out, because Jack can do that. The issues that with Jack, I feel as if he does like to grapple himself. And in those positions, I think Chepe is going to take advantage. I think Chepe is just a more, I don't want to say athletic fighter. I think he's just more wily than Jack Jenkins. Like, he might have the slight athleticism edge, but I think Chepe can get it done. Like, I like both these guys. Like, either way, I'm not going to be like, oh no, one of my guys lost. Both these guys are fantastic. I kind of hope that they didn't pair him up, but I get it. Chep is not supposed to be in the UFC. They're thinking, hey, we'll just feed him to Jack Jenkins. We'll find a way to get him out. Like, he wasn't brought in on their terms. So I do think he can disrupt the system. So again, I'm going to take a shot on Mariscal. I think he can get it done by a multitude of ways. I think he can get submissions. I know Jack's been submitted in the past. You can say he had trouble submitting Trevor Peak, but Trevor's like a weird anomaly, man. Like, he just gets up similar to the Black Beast, and it was difficult. I just think that Chepa can like slow the pace down at a certain point, speed it up. I think he can fight in a multitude of different ways, avoid the low leg kicks. I think he can get the job done. It's another guy that I might put a little bit of money on, like a quarter unit, maybe a half unit, just because I do believe he is that skilled. It's just, again, if he goes buck wild and if he doesn't, cover his chin correctly, he can get cracked. And it could be a very, very, very short night for the man. But again, good fight. Very good fight. Next bout, Carlos Ulberg, Black Jag versus Da Un Jung. Another fight where it's like obvious, right? Like, Carlos Ulberg's going to win. I don't think it's that simple. Carlos Ulberg, I've had my issues with Ulberg in the past, right? He's let me down in such a way that I can never truly forgive him for, which is he won the fight, but I bet 2 units on him to win by finish. And he dances around against the chinniest chin that ever chinned in that light heavyweight division in Fabio Charant, and he allowed him to survive. And after that, I was like, fuck this guy. Fuck him, right? Fuck Ulberg. But he's shown that he is incredibly skilled, because I was like, I was jerking him off during his fight during Kennedy. Like, I picked Kennedy, but I'm like, this guy is incredibly fast. And all this, what I'm saying is true. Great striking, absolutely stud on the feet, great left hook counter. The guy has everything, and he's getting better, and he knows how to game plan for guys and knows how to attack. He's very much a city kickboxing striker. Very, very speedy, and I think he can get the job done in this fight by knocking out Da Un Jung. The only issue is that I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's as simple as just to like shut your brain off, look at the fighters, and think, oh yeah, Carlos Ulberg's going to win because Da Un Jung got knocked out by Dustin Jacoby. The line, it's adequate. I understand the line minus 295 for Ulberg. Come back on Da Un Jung plus 225. But to me, it seems a little crazy. Like, I don't feel comfortable betting Carlos at this spot. And the main reason is, although Carlos has been just knocking dudes out silly with that lead, like, counter left hook, essentially. I think Da Un Jung, being the same size as him, slightly longer reach, and 78.5 compared to the 77. Da Un Jung is, to me, a much more well-rounded fighter. He's not going to be the faster guy. I think he's good in the up close, in the not the clinch, but in the pocket. He throws nasty elbows. I think Da Un Jung has a good chance here to disrupt the system again and beat Carlos Ulberg. Because, like, Carlos, to me, he hasn't really gone past that first round since the Kennedy fight. And Kennedy, he took that ass whooping early because, like, he took everything that Carlos had. Another issue that I had with Carlos in his last fight, he let Ihor Pretoria, the worst fighter on the roster at light heavyweight, land on him. Low kick, slowed him down a little bit. You can tell that Carlos didn't like it. And he landed, I think, a left hand on him. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just kind of store that in the back of my mind. Like, you let Ihor touch you? What's wrong with you, right? I think Da Un Jung, he can get the job done for sure. If he's conscious, I think he can push a pace, clinch him. He had a clinch fest his last fight against Devin Clark. He kind of learned from that for sure. I think he can get Ulberg down and beat him up a little bit. I don't feel comfortable betting him, because I do think that Ulberg is just so maxed out with that speed and power, precision in that first round, that it's going to be really tough for Da Un Jung to be conscious. I am going to pick Ulberg in the first round to get that knockout, but I'm not touching this fight. Like, I'm not parlaying it. I get that feeling that Da Un Jung might pull up the upset here, because to me, it just seems too, like, obvious. It is a step up for Ulberg. Again, there's a obvious path to beating Ulberg, getting him tired. He's not going to be as athletic. He's not going to be as fast, beat up the legs. There's a way to beat every fighter. Ulberg is no exception, and I think Da Jung can do it, but I just don't feel comfortable in picking Da Jung. I do think he can get knocked out. If Carlos is on his A game, he's going to finish Da Jung relatively quickly. Like the way Jacoby finished him, Jacoby's not the fastest guy, but the combination strike and the in and out, if Ulberg can implement that kind of style, just misdirect, left hook, straight right hand, left hook again, Da Jung's not gonna see that coming. So I'm gonna go with Ulberg in the first round. Next bout, main card opener. Got a lot to say about this fight. I think a lot of people are on the pleasure man Anton Turkalj, and I can see why. So we've got Tyson Pedro minus 130 come back on Anton plus 110. The issue here is that Pleasure Man is not a great fighter, but he's not absolute shit. Trains at All Star with Chimaev, and he's got a lot of good qualities. He can grapple. He's got good pressure. He can strike to an extent, and by that I mean like he can strike to an extent where he can throw punches, eat punches, because he's not a technical striker, but because he's got a good chin. I mean, he's got a ridiculous chin. I don't understand it. How was he blessed like that with that chin? Because he can take these punches, he can keep moving forward and throw damaging shots. And it's like, okay, it's not pretty, but he gets the job done. Tyson Pedro is kind of known as a one-round fighter, right? Like you survive the one round, and then you might be able to take him out. He's never won a decision. He's never gone past the first round without a finish within those rounds. So I understand why people are jumping on the pleasure man here. Like, it's not pretty for Tyson Pedro. I know I saw something where he said his last fight, he was sick, he was throwing up, he had diarrhea. So not only does he not fight past the first round, he's also a damn liar and a damn excuse maker. But assuming he's not lying, it's still not out of the realm of a performance against Makdessi. It wasn't like, oh, we've never seen him slow down and look like shit before after the first round. It's just kind of common for him to do so. So what I believe is that Tyson Pedro is quite possibly the greatest fighter ever in the first round. He is prime Vitor Belfort, no known weaknesses in that first round. But after that second round, it ain't pretty. So obviously, I'm not jumping on the Turkalj train quite yet. I'm going to wait after the first round because I think Pedro is very talented. He's got that jiu-jitsu black belt. He's absolutely skilled. He's the better striker, good feints, good kicks to the body, good knockout abilities. Like on top, he's got a multitude of ways to get a submission. His submission game is very solid and slick, just that he slows down. So he doesn't get that first round finish, whether it be knockout and or submission against Anton. Thing about Anton, though, he does have a great chin, but it's not excusing him from not getting knocked out, because Pedro can just crack him once and he can go out cold, right? Because he relies on his chin so much, because his striking and defense isn't great. I feel as if we can be like, oh shit, we're relying on the chin of Anton, and he gets knocked the fuck out in the first round. So I'm not looking to bet this fight. I am going to wait and see what happens. If Anton, say for example, does survive that first round, I know he's going to put that pressure on Tyson. He's going to have felt that power. He's going to go forward. He's going to clinch him up, grapple him. And I even see Anton possibly getting a finish in the second or third round, submission or TKO on the ground. But I know he's going to push the pace on Pedro. Hence, I rather wait, right? Pedro's going to look good in the first round. If he finishes Anton, whatever. I didn't bet Anton. I'm good. Survives that round, Anton does. Should be plus 200, plus 150, plus 180. I'll take those odds and see what happens after that. Pedro could look great here. I know he's been training wrestling. He looks in good shape. He's hopefully going to get over that inability to go those rounds. So we'll see what happens in this fight. He's still very young. He's just had a couple rough outs because he came back from injury. He fought Harry Hunsucker. Harry Hunsucker couldn't hang. Harry's Hunsucker couldn't hang. And then he went into a 3-round decision fight with Modestas Bukauskas, who, the dude is absolutely solid, and he would definitely beat Anton. But yeah, it's a very winnable fight for Anton. But again, I'm staying away. I will pick Pedro by a decision, mainly because skill for skill, Pedro's better. It's just that cardio sucks. If Tyson does show out here with a better cardio, better gas tank, better game plan, I think he's going to pick apart Anton, avoid the clinching, just kind of pick him apart and then take him down, control him with the better jiu-jitsu. We saw Anton make a ton of bad decisions against Vitor, and Pedro, as long as he's got that power, the strength, I think he's just going to be able to do what he wants to a decision win. So I'll go with Pedro to hopefully have a better showing here, and I'll go with him by a decision. Next bout, heavyweight, we've got the rematch, Justin Tafe versus Austin Lane. First fight ended in a devastating eye poke. Pretty bad, but we've got Justin Tafe minus 240, come back on Lane, plus 195. And what's interesting about this fight is I was leaning Tafe the whole time. I'm going with Lane here. There's not much to discuss. I'm not going to make an argument saying that like the Lane won the first 12 seconds of that fight, thus he should win this fight. I don't think that's the case. What I do believe is that I think Lane has the ability to beat Tafe based off of those 12 seconds. From what I saw, he was doing a lot of good work, but Tafe was doing a lot of bad things. He was blocking punches with his stomach. He was getting kind of picked apart from the outside. Nothing significant, right? Like Tafe could have eventually caught him and knocked him out. The issue is, after kind of looking at it, I do think that value on Lane is there because he has that reach advantage, 80-inch reach. I think if Lane comes out here, the more intelligent fighter, he's going to have the better cardio. He's going to be the bigger guy. He can get takedowns. The only type of people that have beaten Austin Lane, and realistically, he only loses to big black athletic dudes. Like every single one of his fights, he's either been knocked out by like athletic big men. Like, for example, Greg Hardy, he's lost to, what was his name? Trevor White, I believe. Just big dudes, like big men that can take him down or just pound him out. And I don't see Justin Tafe having that level of success yet. Vernon Lewis and Frank Tate, people who knocked him out. Not to say that Tafe can't knock him out. I do think there's a way for Tafe to do so, mainly like attacking the legs, slowing the pace down, kind of blocking everything. Obviously, don't get poked in the eye. But going back, why was I so confident in Tafe the first time around? Let me list off some of his, not his wins, but let me list off his losses. First loss in the UFC, Jorgen De Castro, booted, no longer in the UFC. Then he beats Juan Adams. That's his win. Booted, no in the UFC. Carlos Felipe, loss. Again, booted, UFC. Those are three people on his record that are no longer in the company. Jared Vanderaa, booted, no longer in the UFC. That's a loss. So out of those four bums, he's only beaten one of those bums. Harry Hunsucker knocked him out with a head kick. No longer in the UFC. Parker Porter, his last win. Soon to no longer be in the UFC. So every one of his fights, like he should have beaten every single one of these guys. And now he's fighting, honestly, a guy better than every single one. I think Austin Lane could beat every single one of these guys. So when I look at it that way, I shouldn't be looking at it like, oh, Tapology tells me the math checks out. But it's not really the math that I'm looking at. It's just, I hate to admit it again, those 12 seconds kind of like made me think Austin has a chance here. Odds don't reflect it. I'm going to go with Austin Lane by knockout in the second round. I always go back to the fight with Vanderaa, and I bet Vanderaa in that fight because I was not sold on Tafe. And Vanderaa gave me the biggest scare of my life because he was not fighting smart. They kept telling him, take him down. You can take him down. He's like, I want to kickbox with him. He had a nasty cut. He ended up surviving that cut, and he outpointed him on the feet. He was a big dude. He used his range well. Austin Lane do the same. Get that win. Get me that money. I'm going to take a bet on Austin Lane at that money. Hopefully he is still plus 195, plus 200. I'll go second round TKO. Next bout. Short notice bout. We've got Manel Kape versus Felipe Dos Santos. So Dos Santos is a short notice replacement. I honestly forgot who was going to fight Kape. Definitely, for sure, a better opponent. It's not me shedding on Kape. Yeah, it was Kai Kara France. Damn. Alex Perez pulled out on him, and he absolutely went ballistic on Twitter, calling him like, oh, your whole bloodline should be eradicated. And I think Figueiredo was supposed to fight him, but he wasn't cleared. And Kai Kara France, like he had to pull out. Manel Kape is not happy. He is going to come out here and he's going to prove a point. Felipe dos Santos, he's very young. He's like 23 years old, 22 years old. Shoot the box Diego Lima is very aggressive. He fights like every single one of those guys. He's very aggressive, blonde hair. Very fun fighter to watch, but he is not ready for the UFC. 7-0. He is not ready for what's going to come after him. He fought a guy, his most recent fight was against a dude named Hugo Paiva. And early on, he was kind of piecing up Paiva, but then I noticed something about Paiva's style. I've never seen him fight. Paiva fights very similar to Manel Kape, the way he throws combinations, but Kape is much faster. And realistically here, the only way Kape loses this fight is if he doesn't throw punches. Everything else, I think he's got him covered. I think he's going to beat the shit out of this kid because, like, realistically, he's had so many fights canceled. He needs to fight. He wants to fight. He wants a shot at the title. And I think he's going to take it out on poor Felipe dos Santos. I don't like to say that there's no way that Felipe can't win. Definitely, if Manel Kape kind of falls back into that same, let me not throw punches for a little bit and just kind of stunt on the outside. Yeah, I think Felipe can throw more volume. He's very voluminous with his strikes. He has a very good kind of check, like not check knee. What would you call that? Like an up knee up the middle. He throws that quite well, especially to shorter guys. And here he will be the taller guy by 2 inches. I just think Manel Kape's going to batter the boy's body. He's going to slow him down. He's going to finish him in like the second or third round. That's if Kape fights. If Kape fights, period, not like if he fights a certain way. If he fights, he's going to run through this kid. And he keeps talking about his submission game. We know how deadly it is now that we saw that David Dvorak fight where he nearly finished him with that Kimura. The guy has jiu-jitsu. He just prefers to kind of beat the shit out of guys with his hands. But when he lets his hands go, my God, he's going to beat up Felipe dos Santos, and I feel absolutely terrible for the kid. But he's going to get his shot at the UFC. Hopefully he doesn't get beat up too bad where, he has to retire. But I'll go with Manel Kape to win this one in the first or second round. I'll say second round. I'll probably have him as a parlay piece along with the next fight here at heavyweight. Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa versus Drago Alexander Volkov. Minus 200 for Volkov. Come back on Bam Bam. Tuivasa is a plus 170. Yeah, I'm not going to spend much time on it. I didn't tape this one extensively. Tai Tuivasa, if he dinks you, he sinks you, as he said before. But I think at this point he's no longer fighting tailor-made opponents for him like brawlers, right? Greg Hardy, brawler, knocked him out. Augustus Sakai, striker, knocked him out. Derek Lewis getting his ass beat, but he got knocked out. And then he started fighting the upper echelon, more technical guys. Zero Gane, and then obviously Sergey Pavlovich. He's been knocked out 2 times in a row. His last knockout was 8 months ago. Now he's fighting a heavier, more powerful Alexander Volkov, who he does it all. He's absolutely huge. He's a massive unit, great reach. He can clinch, he can knee, he can point fight, he can take you down, he can submit you, he can do it all. This is the easiest fight for Volkov in a long time. I picture this fight being like the Derek Lewis fight minus the Trump-inspired knockout at the end of the fight. Oh, baby. I think it's going to be a bad night for Tai, which sucks, right? Like he's going to be at home. No shoey for him. The only shoey he's going to get is the face, the kick to the face that Volkov's going to deliver to him because he's got every aspect of this fight won. Tai, I know he's been working his takedowns at a certain point. It ain't going to be helpful here. I think Volkov now with the more power, he's gotten jacked now. Volkov has. He's going to have the power advantage here. Mainly, I say that because to have the power advantage, you're going to have to be able to land on someone's chin. I don't think Tai is going to have that ability here. I think Volkov keeps him on the outside with kicks to the body. We know that Tai doesn't like that. And then eventually he's just going to 1-2 him. If Volkov has any issues with Tai, he can just kind of skirt around the outside, point fight him a bit. And then if he feels like it, take him down, get on top of him, pound him out or submit him. I love Volkov here. I'd like him as a parlay piece along with Manel Kape. So I'll go with Volkov round number 2 TKO. I think he's going to piece him up with kicks to the body, tender him up, and then eventually like 1-2 him, maybe get on top of him and finish him with ground and pound. So I got Volkov round number 2. And then finally, we've got our main event of the evening. Like I said earlier, my thoughts on the main event. I don't know. I really don't know. Like I love Sean Strickland, right? I hope he wins, but it's kind of tailor made for Israel Adesanya, right? Sean's taken the fight essentially really, really short. It's what, a month ago that he TKO'd that bum Abus, and now he's plus 440 against Israel Adesanya in essentially his backyard, and now he's a minus 600 for the last Haqparast. What we all know already is that I think the press conference is going to be the most exciting thing about this main event, right? There is going to be fantastic back and forth. For sure, Sean's got the mental edge here. He's definitely the more mentally strong between him and Israel. I don't think Israel's going to say anything that Sean's not going to be able to roll off his back. Like, yeah, you're right. I'm a piece of shit. And he'll say something about, like, you know, inappropriately touching your dog, for example. That's going to be quite hilarious to see how Israel responds. Like, I kind of went back and did a psychological like profiling during that press conference where Israel was trying to like come back at Sean, and everything that he said was like terrible. It was like he didn't know what to say. He was so flustered that he had to. His pride made him say stuff, but it essentially had him admit that he masturbates to cartoons. He's like, it's called hentai. It's kind of like, dude, you're getting bullied by the loser kid in the back that doesn't say anything and just draws on himself. Like, you're the guy with the fresh sneakers and plays basketball, and you're the cool guy, and you're getting like punked out. I'm like, oh, it was bad. It was really bad. So the only way I really see Sean winning, and there's a multitude of different ways. Number one, get him flustered early, and that is in the press conference, talk crap about the guy, because as we see it, Israel's going to be able to just have his way with Sean. The main reasons for that, and I'll get back to Sean winning here if possible, but you know, we saw what Abus was able to do to Sean in that first round, kicked his legs, kicked the body, just long range weapons. Israel's kind of the master of that. And Sean really didn't have an answer to it until Abus slowed down. So Sean has to avoid that. Definitely check kicks. I thought about maybe Sean should throw leg kicks of his own. He's not really known for throwing leg kicks like that. But even then, it's like the only guy that had the most success with Adesanya throwing leg kicks was the great Alex Pereira. And, you know, Sean's not going to throw kicks like him. So it's kind of a moot point at this point. Like, it's not even worth it. But yeah, I think Israel should just be able to, I hate to say, run through Sean, but the ways Sean can win, because he's not completely like out of the water here. Again, psychologically scar him at the press conference. Number two, strike with him a bit and then actually implement your damn jiu-jitsu, because he's got a black belt jiu-jitsu. I've seen it in the past. It is good. He just doesn't use it. He likes to strike. If he can convince Israel that he's going to whip his ass, just kind of piece him up on the outside, if Sean can then catch him off guard and get on top of him, Izzy's solid everywhere. He can get back up, but if he can take the back of Israel, I think he's got a chance there to like sink in a choke early. Like I've seen Sean do it in the past. He's very skilled in jiu-jitsu, just again, he doesn't show it. And another possibility is if Sean can land a good shot on Izzy to get that respect. Like Sean is a very good defensive fighter, but with that defense, it does allow him to get kind of pieced up elsewhere. Like he doesn't get a lot of absorbed strikes to the head, but the legs, the body, and all that. So if he can kind of push a pace intelligently and try to tire out Israel, I don't really see it being the best option, but those are kind of his options. So like it's a winnable fight for Sean if everything aligns for him correctly. But other than that, it's going to be an Israel Adesanya decision win. There is a possibility of a stoppage later on, but again, Israel, he can sometimes fight. He can fight as if like he fights fucking boring. Let's just say that. I think this could be that situation. If Sean kind of draws out that firefight from him, I think he's got better shots there to like counter Izzy. And I don't know if Izzy's going to want to do that. If that does happen one time, I think Izzy goes back to that very safe point fighting style where he, to his eyes, embarrasses Sean by like 50-45ing him, you know? So I'm not super excited for the main event, but yeah, rooting for Sean, obviously, because he's a fun guy. He's very funny. I think he's a misunderstood soul. But yeah, he's a absolute funny fucker. As for Israel, I've not been a fan of his for a while. Like when he first came to the UFC, I was like, oh, this guy's super cool. He's into anime. Like I'm in the anime to an extent. Like funny enough, like you ever have a friend like you're into anime, you like anime, but then there's that guy that's really into anime, makes you uncomfortable. I think that's Izzy now. Izzy used to be the guy like, yeah, I like anime and this and that and comics and shit, but now he's the guy who takes it too far, where it's like it's called a manga. I'm like, oh, you piece of shit. And that's kind of the feeling I get with Izzy now. That's why I kind of want him to lose. Sean is like, Sean's realistic. He's not a liar. He tells the truth. While, Israel Adesanya is a closeted homosexual. So I can't really get down to a guy who won't at least openly come out to me. You know what I mean? So I'll go with Sean Strickland, the outed homosexual, to win this one by, no, not really. I'm going to go with Adesanya to win this one by a decision. But overall, it's a solid card. I think I see a good amount of underdog. I am probably going to take the Volkov, Starboy, and Mullarkey parlay. I think it's still like plus 155. So I'm going to probably put a unit on that and a couple little underdog plays here or there. But yeah, let me know what you think on the main event. Seeing a guy like Sean Strickland as champion would kind of disrupt everything. It'd just be the biggest like F you to everything. Like it just ruins the card. Everyone goes home upset. And me liking chaos, I kind of want to see that. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Johnny TigerBomb MMA, and I'll catch you next week.